Alrighty, beautiful people, here we are back on the Virtus Performance Podcast with a familiar face, Jessica Ryan.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Back to the podcast, back to Virtus. It's very good to have you.
It's really good to be here.
How long's it been since you flew the coop, so to speak? Since you left us? Since you left me high and dry?
High and dry. When was it? I don't remember. Maybe would have been pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was just before COVID, I think.
2019?
That's crazy. It's 2022. It's almost the end of 2022.
Yeah, that's wild.
Just a nice little opportunity to reflect a little bit, chat about what you've been doing in the past couple of years. And for those that don't know Jess, give us an insight into who is Jess Ryan.
Intro. Big question to start. I used to coach here. Which we love. And have been coaching for maybe the last decade across a whole bunch of different places, and I'm now studying osteo and working on my own business and trying to train and be a good human and have a social life and sleep and
all of the things all at once.
All of the things all at once and managing. Would love to be thriving. Maybe a mixture of both.
I reckon you're thriving pretty well at the moment. So first question for you before we kind of get stuck into what you've been doing and kind of what your rules for life and all the principles that allow you to be such a wonderful human. What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Lots of things. I think I get really excited because we get to be here. And it sounds big and woo-woo and everything, but being able to be alive and be a human and live in this day and age is something to be really grateful for. And even on the days where you're, frustrated or having a hard day or whatever, it's still you get to have this experience, and we get to have this experience, and I think that's really cool.
Have you always had that mindset of just like gratitude for being able to exist?
Absolutely not.
Talk me through that. Talk me through what maybe the past version of Jess had, or the mindset you had, and then kind of the transition into how you view life now.
We're going deep real fast.
We're going deep real quick, yeah.
We love that. So I think I only started to realise there was a different way of viewing the world. Maybe, I want to say close to 7 years now, when I got introduced to the world of personal development and taking responsibility for yourself.
That old just
which is a big can of worms, but I'm really grateful I opened the can because prior to that I didn't even know what gratitude was. And I was definitely one of those people who walked around at a victim to life because I just didn't know any different, didn't know any better, and was very angry at the world and angry at my situation, like an angsty teenager who was very like, this is so hard, and had a really troubling time throughout my teenage years and struggled with a lot of mental health problems and everything, and just couldn't see a way out. So then as I started to grow and get older and get into fitness, it's actually how I got into fitness, because I found the gym and just felt better going to the gym. And that was kind of like my escape away from all of the hard things that I was going through at the time. And then it was kind of like my happy place and the home away from home, which we've definitely spoken about before, and having the importance of having that third home. If it's not like home, work, gym.
If you do like what Jess is saying, we do have a earlier version of the podcast with Jess talking about all of this stuff, maybe with a few years less experience. So jump on. It's wonderful, but let's keep going down this path, 'cause I like it.
And then I've lost my trail of thought now.
It's all right. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's your fault. This is Lockie's first time in opening a kombucha.
Yeah, turns out kombucha fizzes up like soft drink. So if you're watching the video, sucker.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I got coaching from previous coaches that I've had in the past who helped me open up my view of the world and way of thinking, and kind of helped me realize that I can take responsibility for the way I let things impact me and how I see things and how I have experiences, and with a lot of repetitive work in that
It's almost
area.
like you got to learn these lessons over and over and over again, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
It's really inefficient.
Yeah, and you think you've nailed it, and then another situation's going to hit you in the face, and you're like, oh, thank you for this opportunity to put this in practice right now as you're cringing.
Thank you, almighty universe, for throwing this shit at me. So I guess, like, obviously the answer is that it's a journey, and that it's up and down, and you're iterating and reiterating, like, the person you are and what you're learning and who you want to be. But was there a moment, whether it be getting into fitness or a moment chatting to a coach, where you had like a crystallizing thought of like, these things can be different, I can be different, there is space for me to grow here?
I don't remember a specific moment.
Over like a time period?
I think it happened over time. I remember being in a period of life where I wasn't doing very well in uni. I didn't really have much drive. Nothing was really happening for me. I was partying a lot, drinking a lot. When I say a lot, it was like 5 days a week. Just not really having a purpose and not having meaningful connections. And I was in a relationship that I wasn't happy in. And I was just across every single area of my life settling for less than what I deserved. But at that time, I had such low self-worth that I didn't know that I was settling for less, which then now in hindsight makes a lot of sense, because I'm quite woo-woo now, and I definitely believe that
the good kind of woo-woo, I think.
The good kind of woo-woo. I definitely believe that you attract where you're at. Like, you attract what you are being. And because I had such a low sense of self-worth, the scenarios that were presenting across all areas of my life were reflecting that back to me. So it's kind of like, okay, well, if you want things to be different, you need to raise this level of self-worth and self-responsibility and everything to then attract better across all areas. Which, that would have been through a period of, I want to say, like 2 years. So if people try and throw a quick fix, improve your self-worth in 1 week, it's probably not going to happen.
Yes.
It took me a lot of time, but I feel like I don't nail it all the time. There's definitely things that I question myself on now, but I definitely have an improved level of respect for myself, and that shows up in my daily behaviour and how I speak to myself now.
What were some of the actions that allowed you to build that into your daily behaviour and actions and, I guess, thoughts?
For me, you hit the low-hanging fruit. The lowest hanging fruit for me, and in my opinion, for a lot of people, is training consistency, because the gym you can just have so many metaphors for life and so many life skills that you can learn through fitness that you can then apply in other areas. And it's not to say that every skill you build needs to be transferable, but the gym is a very easy and simple place to build discipline, consistency, grit, resilience, connection, all of these things that can help you in uni, business, career, relationships. Like, who doesn't want to work with, employ, date, be friends with someone with those qualities? The gym is the gym is way easier to build those skills than like with other people,
Yes. I mean, it gives you a foundation, it gives you a framework to explore each of those capacities.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things, like the gym and like development in life, but development and growth in the gym, it's not linear and it's not always consistent, and it is a lifelong endeavor. And I think we all get to a point when we realize that, I think, as former athletes, maybe still attempting to hang on to that mantle a little bit, but as athletes or as people, or someone that might have done a challenge or done a comp prep or done something to work towards a particular point in time or an event, and then you get to after the event, you're like, oh, I've still got to keep doing it. And you kind of realize that, like all personal development, you can have ebbs and flows, or all development, full stop, can be business, relationships, as you mentioned. But if we spread it out and go, all right, I'm not playing a finite game here, I'm playing an infinite game. How can I create frameworks that allow me to continue to level up, to try something, to iterate it, to fail, to reiterate, and just repeat.
Yeah.
And that kind of ends up being your pathway to a higher self.
Yeah. Well, it just trains a growth mindset, which we've had discussions about this in the past. The world would be a better place, in my opinion, if more people had a growth mindset, because in the gym, you learn that if you show up consistently on the days that you don't feel like showing up, you then still make progress against, let's say, 90% of the population who, when it's hard, they stop.
Yes.
So if you can learn that, okay, it's hard and I'm just going to show up anyway and I'm going to be there and I'm going to tick the box for this session and I feel better because I'm proud of myself for going and I've had some cool connections or a couple of laughs, and I haven't hit a PB this morning, but that's fine. I haven't
had the best session ever, but rocked up. And we can all, I think everyone can zoom out for a second and go, you can ask yourself the question, am I a better person when I train? And train consistently? Yes. Am I a better person when maybe I journal or read or meditate or, talk to people or try and help others? And the answer to all of them, for all of us, if you disagree, you're wrong, is yes.
Yeah.
And when we realise that, and we realise that life is just a consistent stream of challenge, of stimulus, response, and adaptation, then sweet. Let's get to it and have fun along the way and do it with people we love and in spaces we love, and then we're rolling.
Yeah, definitely. I had a thing, and it's like an agreement with myself where if I had a exam that day, or if I had a really important meeting or a difficult conversation that I needed to have at work or whatever it was, I would purposely go and train in the morning first. Or it was either training, or if I didn't have time to train, I would have a cold shower, because whatever I did that morning needed to be harder in my mind than what was potentially coming that day, which then made the difficult conversation or the exam, whatever it was, easier, because I had just deadlifted the crap out of this morning, and it had already given me that sense of confidence of, I can take on this day now.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't need to have, a morning routine of 17 different things. It can just be one thing that gets you moving, that gets your feet on the ground, that gets you out the door. And I think that, because you've already won, the win the morning, win the day kind of mantra or quote is a bit like, come on, shut up. But also, it's like, if you get started well and you start with a little bit of momentum, then we all know that when we have days where we're in flow and everything's rolling, that we've had a ripper start and we just kind of, ride the wave from there.
Yeah.
What are the things that, if you would look back at, say 16-year-old Jess and say, 16-year-old Jess came to you now and said, Jess, I want to be part of Kindling, I want some coaching, what would be your starting point and what would be the things that you would want to teach her? Because obviously you're not going to be able to teach her everything all at once, even though you'd want to. And those lessons are going to be a journey for 16-year-old Jess, but how would you approach that conversation, and what would your first couple of months of your program look like with her?
It'd definitely depend on the person and what they're looking to get out of it.
16-year-old Jess.
I know, 16-year-old Jess. If it was me at the time, I had a lot of confidence issues, body confidence issues, mental health problems, and, as we were saying before, low self-worth. So I think all of that would potentially be too hard to talk about to start, especially at in the headspace I was at the time of 16. I probably wouldn't have been open to me going to a coach where I wanted to lose weight and look skinny or look a certain way. If they started talking to me about my mindset, I would just, come on, I'm not here for a psych session. Older future Jess, back off.
That older Jess, the bitch.
So initially, I would actually, talk about goals and what do you want to achieve and how do you want to feel or what do you want to do. And then throughout the coaching period of 3 to 4 months, bit by bit, just plant the seed of, hey, like, have you thought about viewing it like this? Or would start to direct my previous self towards training for performance and how you can feel when, how good you can feel when you show up consistently and do what you say you're going to do and see progress in the gym, and how you can get the body composition changes that you're looking for without it needing to be about the body composition, which isn't saying, I've noticed in the fitness industry, I don't know if you have as well, there's this thing going around at the moment where people are kind of shamed if they're saying they want to change their body composition. Because it's 2022 now, and you should be talking about how,
Yes.
how, I just want to be here to feel better and feel good and stuff, which is great. And also, just say that you want to look, you want to look a bit more lean, you want to look more toned as well. It's okay to have both of those goals.
It's the absolutism of the fitness pendulum, I think. It's like it shifts from one side to the other. It's like and I know there's different elements of the industry, and we're definitely shielded in what we do here and what you do, and we kind of only pay attention to the people that we give a shit about, that we actually want to hear from. But you can kind of see it. The industry went through that like big fitness modeling, like lean stage, and it's kind of shifted back now to just be happy and healthy in your own skin. But then you're right, we bastardize the people with views on the other end, or that are slightly across the pendulum swing to us. And at the end of the day, and this is kind of the been in the industry a while now, jaded view a little bit. It's just like, fuck, none of it matters as long as you're enjoying yourself. You're actually making progress towards the goals that you've set, whatever they are. And you're doing it in a way that makes your world and the world that you influence around you a better place.
Exactly.
But at the same time, there are, and this is the thing I've kind of realized, or am continuing to realize, is that there are 1,000 different roads lead to Rome, and we as fitness professionals, and I can't speak for other businesses, other industries, but I reckon every industry will be like this. You just think that your way is the best way. So fitness, we bitch and moan and complain and argue about the nuances of sets and reps and programming styles and do we do HIIT, do we do heavy, do we do powerlifting, do we do bodybuilding? At the end of the day, none of it matters as long as you're doing a program you like, you're doing it with people you want to be around, and you're doing it in a way that is progressive and developmental in nature. Then we're rolling. If you want to do F45, go to F45. If you want to do kindling, go to kindling. Go to kindling. Put that on a t-shirt.
Or come to Vertus. Put that on a t-shirt.
Either one. But at the end of the day, it's like, as long as you're actively engaged and enjoying what you do, brilliant. That's what we're here for.
Well, it's like, it matters and it doesn't. And commit to something. Just commit to something. Yes. It doesn't matter what it is, but learn the skill of commitment. Because if you try this one thing for 2 weeks and then, body fit didn't work for me, so now I'm going to go to F45, and then I'm not going to fully commit to that either. So that now doesn't work for me, so now I'm going to do KX Pilates or whatever it is. And it's like, the thing isn't the problem. It's your lack of commitment that is the problem. So just pick something and stick to it for at least 3 months. Every day. Or not every day. It can be at least 4 times a week, let's say, because you can do it on 2 times a week. And also, the general person who is working 9 to 5, you can do something for yourself that is 100%. Active.
And it doesn't have to be just get home, cook dinner, sit in front of the TV for 6 hours, repeat.
That's not fulfilling.
There is so much space for growth and fulfillment in our lives that, if I love this 168-hour rule, it's something we've used at Vertus for years. It's just there are 168 hours in the week. Once you take away 8 hours a night for sleeping, which, quick maths, 56, you got 112 hours to do whatever the fuck you want to do. And a lot of us have pre-written commitments like sport or work or chores, or you probably got to make your bed every now and again and do your washing, etc. So you build those in, and most of us end up with 20, 30, 40 hours a week left over that we currently burn because we either don't have a clear view of what we want or where we're headed. or we haven't actually taken the step. Like the duality of like, you know, action is the only thing that gets you progress, and also you need to plan for where you're headed. They're both really important, but at the end of the day, you know, you can't have one without the other. And if we're looking at fulfillment and growth and accomplishment and all of those big words that ultimately can be the meaning of life.
Yeah. And it's also like, change your routine around where you're at in other areas of life. Like fitness doesn't need to be the one and only thing that is your number one priority.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we just ran into KP before who has 2 little kids. Like she was just saying that she had 3 hours of sleep last night or something.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe she's not going to go do a massive gym session
I rolled
today.
over when I shouldn't have. Rolled back over and went to sleep when I shouldn't have.
But like that's, you know, it's like, okay, what can she at any point today have like 5 minutes where she has a coffee to herself, or like something that's going to, you know, like, because when you're a parent, gosh, I don't know how parents do it. And I think I'm going to really struggle when I become a parent. So hats off to you guys.
I think everyone's like, we're not alone in our struggle as parents, but then as humans, like, you know, nothing grinds my gears more. There's things that grind my gears more, but one of the things that annoys me about parents where they're like, you know, you don't know what tired is until you're a parent, or you like, we don't own fatigue because we have kids to look after. Like everyone, it's all relative. Everyone has experienced all of these things, and everyone struggles. And it's like part of the human condition is that we are not alone in our struggle. And I think it really helps to understand that and to know that and to go, okay, well, that's okay. What's the best we can do with what we've got? And then, you know that there is a large portion of your life that's going to be different to everyone based on their responsibilities and things. There's a large portion of your life that is up for grabs in terms of designing it how you want, living it how you want, executing the things you want to execute on. But until you can have that active developmental focus, I don't think you're going to make the life you want to live a reality until you actually take the time to do that.
Yeah. And this is coming back to the conversation we were having before about my previous way of viewing the world compared to how I view it now.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I was very argumentative for every limitation that I had. Like every single person on the planet has hundreds of reasons why they can't do A, B, C, D. Like, here's all the reasons why I can't do this. The weather, this person said this, the traffic, you think about all the reasons that are against you from making any progress in any area of your life. Any normal human could rattle off at least 50. Yeah. And it's like, okay, the more you want to continue to argue for why you can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, you will never progress. Which is fine, but you are choosing that. So if you want to progress, then you need to stop choosing to argue for all of the reasons why you can't, and then you need to start to be like, okay, well, what can I do? And let's start to make some helpful forward progress in this area versus me putting energy into arguing for my limitations.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant point you make, and it's almost like that's the turning point for most. For me, certainly, for most people who are on, and you know, everyone is in some way, shape, or form on this personal development journey, is when you realise that, all right, there's an infinite amount of things that are outside of my control, and there are a handful of things that are inside of my control. There's what you do, what you decide to think about, who you spend your time with, what you consume, and that's pretty much it. And if you go, okay, well, the infinite amount of things, the weather, you know, what Dan Andrews is ruining today, you know, what's happening in the world, like what my football team's doing, all of these different things, can't do anything about it. It's outside my circle of influence. So it's like, all right, well, these 5 things are within my locus of control, so let's focus on those 5 things. Yeah. Who am I spending my time with? You know, what media or what food or what am I consuming? Like, am I getting up early and training, or am I going to train after work, or am I sitting down and watching Netflix? And when you start to go, okay, well, let's start making these decisions towards the person you want to be, and you don't have to make all of them. Like, there's going to be times when you go, you know what, I can't be fucking going to the gym. I want to go sit in the couch and zone out and watch some Netflix. Brilliant. Yeah. And you go through stages of that being okay. But I think, I don't know, for me, the changes came, because it never happens at once, when you start to just bring intention into everything you do.
Yeah. And it's also like, own it.
Yeah.
Fully own it. If you're having a day, I spent 3 hours yesterday watching Gilmore Girls on the couch.
And how's Lorelai going?
Great. There is no part of me that feels guilty about that because I chose to do that. I was like, you know what? I've got 3 hours. I feel like not being productive right now because a lot of the rest of my week is me being productive, coaching people, like training people in leadership, studying for uni, all of that. Yesterday, my brain was pretty fried and I made the conscious decision to sit on the couch and watch 3 hours of Gilmore Girls and loved it.
Yeah. And it's almost like that productivity mindset or productivity, that growth in productivity that everyone's trying to get.
Yeah.
It kind of takes, I look at it kind of now where my priorities have shifted and it's not all about growing and hustling and developing things. I'm doing it in different ways with the girls now where I'm challenged in so many different ways, but it's not about, more, bigger, whatever. That productivity side of life, it's just an element of it. And that, I'm kind of probably more of like, not in a completely hedonistic way where I'm just enjoying things for the sake of enjoying them, but I'm probably more just like, well, I want to spend as much time with the girls as possible. I want to experience this part of life as intimately as I can over the next few years until, they're telling me that they hate me and, sneaking out at night and doing all that kind of stuff. It's like, I want to maximize this time. So the desire to be productive isn't really there. And, like you mentioned before, like KP and I are going through a season in our lives where, we're way down the list in terms of our priorities. Like the girls obviously come first. We need to get to work. We need to keep them alive. We need to do all these different things. So, shifting to, we maybe haven't been watching Gilmore Girls, but shifting to a couple of hours on the couch at night just to like zonk out and enjoy that space and intentionally enjoying that space is so important. It's so important to our mental health and so important to the way we live our whole life. If we didn't do that, and we're in a really fortunate position. We've got heaps of help, and we're intimately involved in many communities around here, and like Lucy goes in a common folk, and it's like she owns the place, which is brilliant. But it also allows us some space to go. Oh, we can take a breath because she's comfortable in this space, and I look at that now and go, well, no wonder so many people are struggling and unfulfilled because they put so much pressure on themselves to be understanding how life works and to be completely on top of the job that they want or their training or their, whatever it is, their uni, their study. And I think just kind of finding that duality of like, be kind to yourself, give yourself space, give yourself what you need. But then also on the flip side is like, stop being a pussy, start training, do the things you said you would do because that's going to make you better. It's like I mentioned before about the fitness pendulum, it's kind of a similar thing. It's like, you can have times where you goggins the shit out of life and just go, shut the fuck up and do the work. Yeah. But there's other times where you're like, you know what, we need space for just being. Yeah.
Relaxation, breathing, not doing anything. Yeah. Otherwise, if you do too much of the one thing, it's toxic in anything. So too much hustle culture is toxic. Too much rest and doing nothing is toxic. It's like, find the balance that works for you, and everyone's going to be very different with that. But if you don't know, it's kind of like if you can expand your ability for hustle, and then you can also expand your ability for rest and zen, you then have capacity to swing between the two. But if you've never done any sort of hustle before, then when it comes to a period of life where you've got assignments due or, you've got a whole bunch of business things that like you need to meet deadlines on, you don't have capacity because you've never worked that muscle before to then get it done. Yeah. And that's going to be detrimental to you in what you're trying to do. Versus if you've never meditated before or you've never done breath work or you've never had rest where you're sitting by yourself with your thoughts or like reading a book, you don't know how to sit there and be, that's a problem. So you need to swing between the two and develop both capacities.
The two things that underpin that, one is self-awareness to know what you need that you don't have, and then the second part of it is the capacity to then do it, take action, and actually actively go, all right, here is what I need. And you mentioned before about choice. That taking action or sitting back and relaxing and shifting between the two, like that is a choice. And it's almost like the way I look at training and the way I look at life is just about building capacity. It's like, compound interest for whatever you're doing, whether it be saving money, whether it be connecting with good people, whether it be, training and building physical and emotional capacity in the gym. It all comes over a long period of time, compound interest. Like it allows you to build momentum like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Yeah.
To then be able to make a big impact when you crush the town at the bottom of the hill. Analogies and things.
But then it's also a little bit about learning to be okay with taking imperfect action and not fully being across.
What's that quote from like early on, Vertus? It was like an imperfect plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan implemented next week. I always love that because it was like throw shit at a wall, take action, and then you can always fix it and iterate things as you go. Yeah. But if you never take action, then you're never going to move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you just need to learn the skill of learning how to prioritize. It's like move the needle over here, then there's a fire over here. So you've got to go quickly put the fire out and put pause over here. Yeah. But if you can, push and pull the levers that you need to push and pull at different parts of your life or different areas and stages of your life, that's going to help you massively. Because if you're then giving an effort over here and something over here is kind of falling short, it's like sometimes you can just make the call of, is it okay that I'm dropping the ball over here for a little bit? Yeah. Most of the time, potentially, it maybe is.
Yeah.
So, like, there are different periods of my life, especially at the moment. My social life is taking a bit of a hit because my priorities are like finish uni degree, make sure my business is going okay. I have other priorities at the moment, but I know that uni's done in 6 weeks' time and my social life can then pick up again.
How do you identify what priorities are most important, or how do you create a hierarchy in terms of what you need to be spending your time on? Because like we mentioned, there's a finite amount of time in the week and you have a finite amount of energy that you can distribute between your things. How do you because if you could do it all at 100%, you would. Life just doesn't work like that. So how do you identify which thing is most important at that particular time?
It's a good question.
Thanks.
Why?
Thanks for pumping up my questions.
Smarter than you look.
Significantly.
For me, my health and well-being always needs to be number one. And it's not in, it is in a selfish way, but in my opinion, it's a good thing. Because if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't show up in any area of my life as the person I want to show up as, or as the person that people want to be around. So my health and well-being needs to be number one. And that's just based on self-awareness. I've gone through periods where I haven't made myself a priority and my training falls by the wayside and my nutrition turns to shit and I'm not sleeping. And who I am when I am missing all of those behaviors that make me personally feel good, I just don't do anything well. I'm snappier and grumpier and less patient. And so my health and well-being always needs to be number one, as just through major trial and lots of error.
Yeah, well, that's it. I look at my last 12 months and footy's been a priority, but the girls have been a priority at the top, but then rebuilding Virtus post all the COVID stuff, or regrowing Virtus back to where we needed to be. And all of these things have been priorities for me. And I've noticed that there are moments where I'm I don't like who I am at these particular times because I'm not training enough, or I'm not eating well enough, or I'm not sleeping well enough. And there are parts of that are outside of my control. And I kind of looked at this year as almost just got to survive till the end of footy season because, there's 15, 20 hours a week committed to that.
Yeah.
And what that has allowed me to do post-football season is go, all right, those 15, 20 hours, they're now Wallace time, training, getting in here, eating good food, spending time, taking a breath and catching up with people for coffee and doing things that I know make me a better version of me. Like we mentioned before, I know I'm better when I train consistently.
Yeah. And
I know I'm better when I eat good food. I know I'm better when I hydrate and, just little things that are almost the domino effects for everything else. Buying some supplements to go, if I'm committing to taking these supplements every day, things that I know will make me perform and be better, then it's everything else gets better. Yeah. And it's almost as individuals, we need to understand what are what's our big domino that allows all the other dominoes to fall, or little domino? Be little one would make all the big ones fall. So what's the little domino that, like, when you knock that over, you know that everything else is going to go? And I know for me, it's training. It's like if I have a session, it doesn't have to be the biggest session in the world. I don't have to hit PBs. I don't have to, do anything silly. But if I just get moving and have some sort of structured session 5 or 6 times a week, I am so much better at everything else.
Yeah.
And when we understand that, we're rolling. So health and fitness for you is your little domino?
That's definitely number one. And then it'll depend on where I'm at in the year for like what I'm trying to push. Like uni, there's a certain 4-month period where then my structure is kind of determined for me.
Yeah.
So I'll just plan out. I live by my Google Calendar. Anyone who knows me knows that I live by it. But we work in block mode, so each 4 weeks for me is different. And I know that it's basically like a 4-month intensive where I'm learning 12 weeks of content in 3, then have exams. So I will plan my life around what I'm expecting my workload to be in that time. And the units that I know will require more from me energetically, I will try and do the best to not launch a new program in exam week.
And you don't always nail it, right?
Absolutely not. No way. Yeah. But then in those times, I think at this point, anyway, absolutely don't nail it, but I am way better now than what I have been previously in asking for help and asking for what I need and reaching out to people closest to me. If it's, my uni teachers saying, hey, I need help. I'm so overwhelmed this week.
Yeah.
And they'll sit down and be like, yeah, you're doing a lot. Like, there's one unit where, and I wouldn't recommend this to any other university students, but there was one unit this year where I just didn't submit an entire assignment because I had so much work to do outside of uni, and I could step back and look at in the macro, the grand scheme of things, can I pass this unit without dedicating 2 full days of my time to this essay that in the macro doesn't really matter.
No. And this is the thing, like students go through exams and we go through job interviews or we go through portions of our job and it's a big cliche, but it's like if it's not going to matter in 6 months, then why are we letting it get to us now?
Exactly. And
I think it's just our lack of control around certain things, but that self-awareness that you've built into your existence over the last 7 years is phenomenal because it allows you to go, okay, well, I know might be me not training for a couple of months because I know football we need to get to the end of football season, or it might be you going, you know what, I'm going to launch this program because I know I can deal with it even though it's not ideal. And I think that's almost the lesson of this part of our chat for people is that you're not at the finish line. You haven't nailed down all of these things. You're on a journey through self-development that's 7-8 years in the making, plus the 20 other years of figuring shit out, of how to be a human. It's a lifelong endeavour. It's an infinite game. There's no finish line. I've always loved the idea of a horizon where it's like, we're looking out at where we want to be and who we want to be, and everything we do takes us closer to that horizon, but we're never going to reach it. It's not. There is no finish line. There are just checkpoints and victories and failures along the way, and the more walking we can do towards that horizon, the better our life is because we get to experience and we get to live it. And we, as you said at the start, you get to wake up tomorrow morning and go, what do I get to do today?
Yeah.
Beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I think it's just keeping that in check of you can be striving for things and working towards things or whatever. And it's like, and who are you being as you're doing that? And how much fun are you having along the way? Because hustle culture doesn't always breed a lot of fun. But then it's also like we're humans. A part of life, maybe the meaning of life, is joy. So it's like, is what you're doing bringing you joy? And if it's not, what are you doing?
Yeah. But that is, in essence, what the meaning of life is, I think. And I kind of look at the meaning of life question, which we could spend 4 hours talking about it. Let's open up a little bit of that whiskey and see what happens. But like for me, there is no meaning of life. Like our existence is so insignificant on the grand scheme of things. If we're going real macro, humans as a species, completely meaningless. However, in that nothingness and meaningless, you get to create your own meaning. Like we're here for a period of time. What happened before? Who knows? What happens after? Who knows? Let's decide what's important to us. Let's get clear on our values. Let's get clear on our mission. Let's get clear on the pillars of our existence and the principles that allow us to live our best life. And then just like fucking balls to the wall, have a crack at it and have fun and know that everything's going to fuck up at some point and things aren't going to be perfect. But if you have a lot of fun and you do it with people you love along the way, then like that's a life worth living, and that's the meaning of life for me. So being joyful and finding things you enjoy, do that and we're cruising.
Yeah. And it also doesn't matter what it is. If you're super passionate about painting,
go
paint.
Yeah.
Like paint more. Just find things that fill you up and do them more.
And, leaning back on what you said before, do it for a period of time that means that you have to commit and you have to be a part of it. Because like I've always loved the idea of like, if you want to be a painter, what have you got to do? Paint. All right. If you want to, learn how to take photos and edit videos, what do you got to do? You've got to take photos and edit videos. Like the 10,000 hour rule, that is a bastardized summary of a lot of Anders Ericsson's work, book called Peak. It's phenomenal. But it's a great tool to kind of look at and go, all right, well, I don't have to spend 10,000 hours to be an expert at something, but you've got to spend the first hour and you've got to spend the second hour, and that's going to turn into 10, which is going to turn into 100, which is going to turn into 1,000. And if you really want to be good at something, you have to do it. Yeah. And I think I was chatting to Beck the other day, and it was like, if you want to be good at something, it doesn't matter what it is. Like hypothetically, you want to be good at podcast editing. Yeah. If you do 30 minutes a day for a month, you'll be better than 90% of people are at that particular thing, probably more.
Yeah.
And I think we're not very good at sucking at things as humans. Like our ego, and this is something that, having this chat with Beck the other day, I was kind of looking at it and go, oh man, I need to start fucking up more or start doing things that I'm not good at more because I'm not good at them, which will allow me to, it's that like catch-22. It's like, that'll allow me to be better at it. Like you need to suck at things. Yeah. And we intentionally don't sign up for events, or we don't, start new hobbies, or we don't, try different parts of our business or our life because we're not very good at it. Yeah. But to become good at it, we've actually got to do the thing. Yeah.
The sucking part is a part of success. It's like everyone needs to go through it. People see, at the moment, for me, it's TikTok.
I just decided to hire someone to do our TikTok for us, so let's just do that.
I'm going through the suck period at the moment, and it is really challenging. And it was interesting because, I put this on social media the other day. But
if you don't follow Jess on social media, her rants are phenomenal.
I basically have been working on getting better at TikTok, and I'm 30, so we're learning TikTok, and it is challenging because the whole last decade of coaching, I've learned about the human body, I've learned about coaching and human behavior and mindset and everything, and I feel like, yes, I can absolutely be better as a coach, but feel like I know how to coach. Yeah. When it comes to marketing and social media and clipping videos and then putting text on the videos, and it is, for me, very challenging and not something that comes easy. And it takes me like 2 hours to put up a 15-second video, whereas someone who is skilled in the area would be better. And then the videos that I'm putting out aren't even that valuable because I don't know how to get what I'm trying to say in this 15-second valuable video that's going to be helpful for people. And anyway, one of my housemates, shout out to Sam, is very good at TikTok and knows what he's doing. And he has been sitting down trying to help me, saying, hey, Jess, this is what you didn't do well in the video. This is what you need to improve. And it's kind of like, Sam, I know my video sucks and you're just telling me my video sucks. Yeah. But he's doing it in a way of trying to help me in pointing out these are where you're missing the mark, which is hard to take, but also I'm very aware. Yeah, of course I'm not good at it yet. Like I've just started out doing it.
But that is feedback and quality feedback, and
yes,
it's the like deliberate practice loop. It's like be shit at something, get help from someone external to your biases and your understanding to tell you why you're shit at something.
Yeah.
Reiterate it, get better at it, still have things to improve, and then it's just this beautiful loop that just keeps going up and up and up until you get to a point where you're like, I'm competent and I'm able to do it and I'm able to do it well. And I think we don't allow ourselves enough reps in whatever we're doing. And the gym's a perfect example. Is like, you know, for years I'd be like, nah, I don't weightlift because, you know, I suck at power cleans and I don't want to, pardon me, I can get those improvements through doing different things, throws and jumps and different lifts. But it's like, well, if I actually wanted to be better at weightlifting, all I would have to do would be spend time weightlifting.
Yeah. Drill it again and again and again
and
again.
Learn what you're doing wrong and find different ways to teach yourself and to get other people to teach you. What are some of the ways that you in the past have sucked at something and then gone, here's how I need to get better?
I would purposely sign up for something that's going to force me to commit to it.
Yeah. Positive pressure is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, 100%. If there's anything that I've really, like Ollie lifting is a thing for me, so I've signed up to a weightlifting class.
Awesome.
There was a period of time where I just was noticing that I was really not disciplined or committed, so I signed up to a powerlifting competition because that would force me to learn discipline and commitment.
That memory came up the other day.
Did it? Yeah. Back in the day. 100%. Or like sign up to a half marathon. Because someone who signs up to a half marathon, generally, if it's your first one, you can't run a half marathon yet.
You don't train for a marathon, you just run it.
Not everyone can just run
That's
a marathon.
How I Met Your Mother quote, by the way. Just run it.
Yeah, it's like commit to the thing before you're ready to do it.
Yeah.
And then bit by bit, just show up.
Yeah.
And then learn, suck at it, keep trying, and don't let the fact that you suck at it deter you. Yeah. Maybe unless you've been trying something for 10 years, then pick a different...
maybe get a coach or do something else. But yeah, like those self-limiting beliefs are so prevalent in everything we do. Like, I don't know if you're following Ned Brockman at the moment running across Australia, but in a nutshell, this maniac, and this is going to be something that I think everyone will talk about for a long time once he finishes in a couple of days. But he's running from Perth to Bondi. Mm-hmm. He's like 44 days in or something. And, he does a daily update where he talks about his day. And the theme that I'm, reading this every day, it's just like we as humans tap into such a small part of our capacity of what we're actually able to do. And we are so much more resilient, and so there's so much more growth than we realise. That all it takes is some nutcase running from one side of the country to the other, or someone doing a world trip in a certain amount of days, or doing something stupid. It might be signing up to a marathon, and when you've never ran before, and going, all right, well, I've got 12 weeks to figure this out. Yeah. Wouldn't recommend that, but. 95% of the population, maybe not 95%, but a fair chunk of the population would be able to do that if they just stripped away those self-limiting beliefs and went, you know what, I'm going to have a crack, I'm going to fail, I'm going to suck at it, but it's going to teach me a whole heap about who I am and what I can actually achieve, and it's going to, at the end of the day, it's going to give me a sense of achievement regardless of whether I make the thing or not. Yeah. And I think that's almost the most important part of growing up. It's like going, all right, I'm allowed to fail. Failure is a brilliant thing. Failure is all failure is a feedback mechanism of either what doesn't work or what needs to be tweaked, and then we get to continue to level up. Yeah,
and it's also like I would rather fail. I would rather give something.
Can't drink today.
I'd rather give something my best effort and fail miserably than be sitting on the couch not trying. Pulling down other people who are trying and failing. Yeah. It's like, just go for it. Worst case scenario, you'll fail. Then what? People might say some things and then you'll move on.
But yeah, in a week, it won't matter.
Yeah.
Like, think of the things that we all see, like games of football and and things like that. Like, sure, we pay attention to the game of football that happened on the weekend for the week, but then the next weekend happens and there's new games of football, and the longest period that's going to be is going to be a 6-month period between the end of the year and the start of the next year. And I think, if something that big that affects so many people has a finite lifespan for how long people will think about that failure, then imagine, like, again, we're super insignificant. Imagine how insignificant your failure is, not only to yourself, because in 6 months it won't matter, but to the whole world.
Yeah.
And there's so much growth in that.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you excited for?
I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come over the next 12 months. I feel like I'm in a big growth phase at the moment, and it's really exciting.
Expansion goodness.
Yeah,
What
expansion
does that
goodness.
look
like? I'm nearly finished uni, which I'm stoked about and excited to progress in that. And then got some travel coming up, and I cannot wait for that. And
where are you going?
I'm back to the States.
Who are you going to see?
Going to Deuce Gym.
Beautiful part of the world.
We love it. Yeah, it's exciting. So internship round 2 over there, which will be great, and just can't wait. Very excited for the growth that's going to bring. It'll be very challenging, but
give us a quick insight into your first internship there and what that period of your life taught you, what you experienced.
It was so much more challenging than what I thought it would be. So I went over to do a 5-week internship this year in January, and didn't know anyone and was on the other side of the world doing training that I wasn't really used to. It was very hard, and just needed to figure it out, which was really why I wanted to go anyway, to put myself in a very uncomfortable position and back myself in that I had the resilience and grit to be able to deal with it, which I did, and luckily made some friends, and it ended up being okay. But there was a lot of tears also shed on that trip whilst I was somewhat living my dream, because I'd been wanting to go over there for such a long time, and also deal with how challenging I found it too, and just grew so much as a person, because over there they are very into negative feedback. So getting analysed when you're coaching a session for everything that you're doing it's really hard to put yourself out there when there is a very high chance of failure in public, like in front of other people viewing your failure and you feeling it as well, and then being told
just reminded, hey, I know you suck, but here's why you sucked. Yeah.
And it sounds really brutal. It wasn't that brutal. Like, they do it in a really cool way. But the whole purpose is to have you be in a position that's just outside of your edge. So it's very uncomfortable, but not too far that you're going to fail miserably. It's like they want you to just push past that bit, and then they'll help you get up. But it makes you better. Yeah. So I have voluntarily signed up for round 2 of that, which I think will be more of a challenge next time I go back. But I'm trying to now prepare myself physically and mentally and emotionally as best as I can over the upcoming months, so that I have more of a capacity as a human to deal with it round 2, and potentially push further edges whilst I'm over there.
Brilliant. It's such a nudge to just stretch goals for everyone. It's like, do the thing that scares you, because you'll level up, you'll adapt, and you'll be better off for it. And then, take a moment and go back and do another one. Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because the environment that they've created is a safe environment to fail. So I know that if I fail over there at whatever I'm trying to really go for, it'll be a conversation of, okay, here's everything that went wrong. But then it'll also be a conversation of multiple people getting around me being like, here's how to get better. Do this next time and have another go tomorrow. It's like you're not kicked out of the program if you fail.
Just keep showing up.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yep, did this. And then if you show up again tomorrow after the failure, it's kind of like everyone's there giving you a high five, which is cool. Yeah, it's exciting.
That's awesome. How can people follow you, follow your journey, follow Kindling, do good things with you? Give yourself a plug.
Probably socials. Coach Jess Ryan on Instagram, or Kindling Club on Instagram. That I need to build. I need to get someone who's good with graphic design to help me.
Just get Canva, mate.
I know, another skill I haven't fully developed yet in Canva. But yeah, Coach Jess Ryan or Kindling Club would be the two best ways. I'm pretty active on Instagram for the moment, and then
Rants.
maybe wait till I get better on TikTok before you follow me on TikTok. Or watch the journey of me failing my way forward on TikTok.
Do that. Yeah, fail forward. Perfect summary of the podcast. Any more for any more?
No, I'm happy.
Love your work. Keep doing good things.
Have a good day.